Okay, great. Mine's going to be a little sporadic. I'm going to chase some rabbits. Ralph was very organized. Mine's not going to be, but the assignment I had from Curtis was give some memories of, good, I guess good and bad memories, right? Okay. Just memories. Well, first of all, I'm going to talk about a little bit about my mom, my dad, my grandparents, my grandmother, my grandfather. I was in the actually in the second litter on my mom's side of the family of the grandkids, so I was kind of just another number. On my dad's side of the family, I was in the first litter, so I had a little more contact with my grandparents on my dad's side. But I guess to start out with, several of them had a big Christian influence on me, a whole lot. And I'm trying to think, but about my grandfather, Ralph, we were born in Texas. My father was born in Texas. My grandfather was born in Texas.
I was born in America.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's an America. I know there's a Texas. But anyway, they actually, my dad, when my dad started school, he died 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago now, at 91. Most of y'all know him. When he started school, when he went to second grade, they told him no English, no second grade. And my dad was raised in a Czech community, and they spoke Czech. My grandparents spoke Czech, and my dad spoke Czech. Now, my mom and them didn't. They spoke a little everything else, but it wasn't Czech. It was different things. They were East Texas, kind of. But anyway, it was very interesting to see how I've just recently went and saw some of our Czech heritage, and my grandfather was in World War I and saw some of the stuff in LaGrange that they had on him over there from World War I. But moving on, let me get my list here because like I say it's sporadic. But, a little bit about my grandfather. I can remember going to church with my grandfather later on after my grandfather and when I was born, they were already saved and going to my grandparents first went to the Czech Moravian church, and whenever they decided they were going to go over and visit the Pentecostal church one weekend. Well, when the Brethren heard that he visited the Pentecostal church, they kicked him out of the Brethren church. So it was an interesting story on that. They basically stayed in the Pentecostal or Assembly of God church till the time they passed away. But my mother was a Baptist. So I tell everybody when I tell a story, I believe in the Trinity. Okay? Baptist, Assembly of God, and Nazareth. Okay, because that's the three churches basically that's had an effect on me. So going back to the history again, I remember being with my grandfather at church and sitting by him whenever he was singing. He had a big influence on me. He used to, when I was like Caleb's age, which is around 10 or 11 years old, I was driving a tractor and I was driving his car basically because he hated to drive, so I'd drive him to town. But we just drive on the side of the road, somewhere around 11, 12, 13 years old, somewhere around, I could just see over the dash. But most of it was dirt roads. When we sit around and sing church, songs, best I remember, my grandfather I sound like my grandfather as far as singing. He kind of had a medium voice and he could sing high or low a little bit, but big influence on me. I remember, going back to the Baptist church, my dad didn't attend church when I was first a kid. He decided that he wasn't going to be in the church, so he was just doing his own thing. Well, my mom went to Memorial Baptist Church here in Pasadena. And how many of y'all heard of James Robertson? Okay. I believe this is the story's right, is Pastor Hill was the pastor that raised James Robertson. And James Robertson came out of Pasadena.
Yeah, we played football together.
Okay. So my mom was going to Memorial Baptist, and we were kids, and we were just kind of bouncing around going to church some. And my dad told my mom, said, I'll go to church with you. All of you will go to the Assembly of God church. But I'm not going to the Baptist church. You know how it is. Y'all been around all that. Well, Pastor Hale was talking to my mom, and she told him that. He said, well, you know, you need to go to Assembly of God church. This is back, okay, 60-something years ago. 60 years ago. Well, now, how many Nazarene Baptist preachers would tell one of their good people that shows up all the time to go to another denominational church that had really believes quite a bit different than they do? Well, my mom did, so that's when we started going to the Assembly of God church. So that had another big influence on me. Oh, there was another guy that had a big influence on me too. Pastor, whenever I became a teenager, again, I'm chasing rabbits again. There was another little Assembly of God church over here on Lano Street called Manor Assembly. And I was a ball player. Played softball and basketball. And he allowed me to play ball for that church. I was the only kid that didn't go to that church, played there as long as I brought a letter from a pastor that said I would attend church somewhere. So anyway, I played ball. And we played, we won. We were pretty good. From 16 for 10 years I played for them. Until Becky and I got married, and then I quit because she wanted me to stay around the house more. So
the filter
that's the filter right there. Oops. So anyway, it was great. I mean, it was fine. It was time for me to retire anyway. But this guy came back, this pastor, he kept a really hard thumb on us guys. I mean, if we got out of line, he was always talking to us. And you know, being 16, 17, 18, whatever, he kept a pretty hard thumb on us. But he eventually moved from Manor, which is a little bitty church. He wanted to start another church right there somewhere, but the district wouldn't let him do it for whatever reason. So he goes to Mississippi, and he goes to a church with about 30-something people. And he grew that church from 30-something people to like 600-something folks in a short period of time in Mississippi. Well, we had a barbecue later, came back, and he was there talking to us. Now, I'm sorry, my nickname back then, I'll have to tell a couple other stories here. My nickname was Michelle, they called me Michelle because my hair was so long. Okay? So, first thing, we had this barbecue at my house over there on Pick Street, our first house. So he gets out of the car, and first thing he walks out, grabs me, and he says, hello, Michelle, how you doing? And I told him, I said, you know, I would have hit anybody when they would call me that except for you. And there was another guy who was our coach who did the same thing. But they were special people in my life. And he was talking, and he said, you know, we were out there in a group like this. There's all our ball players who got together, us wives and some of our kids. And he said, you know, I can think of probably nothing else that I had more fun doing than playing ball with you guys over all those years. Even it outweighs me growing at church, working at the church and growing, because y'all were such a big part of our lives. Because I'm telling you, they were just like another parent to us. So his name was Norman Busby, and another guy named Homer White that was our coach, big influence. Okay, going back to the hair deal. My grandparents on my mother's side, we had a really hard time with that. I'm sorry, they had a hard time with it. I didn't. To the point I almost wasn't a pallbearer, and to the point I threatened to whip one of my uncles for calling me a queer. And so that was an interesting perspective back then. Yeah. But they wanted some memories, so I'm giving you some memories of what went on. So I know. Sorry, I'm gonna get back. So anyway, we go to my other grandparents, and my grandmother says, "Look, I don't care how you look. We're gonna love you. And we care about you." So that kind of made me a little closer to her on that. So she was another big influence on me on that, as far as looking out for me and me visiting with them in church. Well, yeah, Carol, I had a hard life. I mean, this was not all sugar whenever I grew up, okay? So you have to take the good and the bad. Do what?
I said I'm glad I knew you later.
Yeah, well, the story about my dad, you know, my dad, I went to Pasadena High School. He wanted me to learn Spanish. And we had this crazy Spanish teacher. I mean, absolutely crazy. And I was a freshman in high school. And I went to the principal and said, look, I need to get out of this class. This lady, I'm not getting along with her very well, so there's a problem here. And they went to the principal, went to our assistant principal, and he said, oh, we're not going to do anything about that. So I go home, and I say, look, Pa, I know you want me to do this, but I'm telling you, this lady's crazy. She's a horrible teacher. He said, okay, I'll go down there and take care of it. Well, it wasn't very long that next day that here's the assistant principal knocking on the class door saying, hey, what class do you want to go to? I asked him, I said, I thought you said I couldn't go to another class. Well, you're going to go to one now. So evidently him and my dad had a heart-to-heart. So same thing happened when the kids were acting up, picking on us down the street. Really mean kids. I'm talking about mean. And their daddy was a alcoholic, really rough guy. So my dad finally had enough of them picking on us little kids. So he went down there and talked to the guy down in the street whenever he got home one evening. And we had no more problem with the kids down the street beating us up. So my dad looked out for everybody. If you wonder why I do certain things sometimes, my dad was a big part on sticking up for us kids and protecting us like that. I'm going too long, I know. Mom, I can remember her cooking chicken fried steak for all 5 of us and giving us all a piece of chicken fried steak, and we had 2 or 3 vegetables, and that's what we would have at supper night. It wasn't any big. When one of my friends had a big steak, I said, man, you going to eat that whole thing? He said, yeah. But it was all very simple, but we made it all through very well. When my sister was getting married 40 years ago, Mom, I asked her, I said, let's go down to Foley's. Foley's was a big store back in Pasadena, and I said, let's go down there and let's go shopping. And she said, okay. So we went on down there, and we went over into the dishes, and I said, Mom, pick out a set of china here. And she said, walk to them. She said, well, I don't know what Kathy wants. That's my younger sister. I had 2 younger sisters. She said, I don't know what Kathy wants. I said, well, I'm not worried about Kathy. I said, what do you want? And she says, me? She said, I never have had any china. I said, you are now. So anyway, I bought her a whole set of china there at Foley's. And when we were starting to divide some of the stuff up here the other day with my sister, I told my sisters a story. They didn't even know it. But anyway, my mom had a full set of china after that, where she could have people over, and she had a nice set of settings in to do that with. But that was something I was really proud to be able to do. I won't talk about the fights, Carol, okay? And I guess I learned a big lesson from my dad one time. I really wanted to go do something, go out to eat or do something. I was at church with him, and you know how kids do. I was pulling on him, let's go do this. He didn't want to do it. And I said, well, it's just because you're too cheap. And he looked me dead in the eye and he said, boy, I'm going to tell you one thing. If you wasn't my son, you wouldn't be standing here right now. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I said, yes, sir, I understand. So needless to say, I wasn't the easiest kid to raise. But they all had a big influence on us, and the church had, like I say, had a big influence on me. Mom and Dad, they had us at church, but the pastor and the ball coach that I played for did in Spanish class. I think that's about it. Sorry, it took too long, but that's my chasing the rabbits. That's some of the different memories I had. I couldn't put them all together. But it's a little bit about myself and my family. Only other thing I can think of on my mom's side of the family, they raised watermelons. And I would take a friend of mine once in a while there when the watermelons were finished and they were already through selling them. And we'd just go cut them watermelons apart and eat the center part out of watermelons. And the guys that I'd take were from Pasadena. They had no clue that you could get out there and do that, have watermelons, just eat the heart out of 10 watermelons if you wanted to, or 20, however many you wanted. So that was another memory that we had that we did. Okay? Any questions?